So, welcome to another week of Miiverse drawing. This week I will be covering dithering. And the first question might be, what is dithering? I don't want to use crazy terms that I wouldn't normally use, but I would say it's the mixing of pixels in an image to make it look like a smooth transition. The best thing to go with that is to say that there's an intermediate colors in between, or color maybe in this case, but it's like going from a black box to a white box. If you did that, it would just be this black-white line in the middle. One black line going to the black box and white line going to the white box. But if you do it right, you'd be able to blend that division between those two boxes to make it appear that they have blended from black to white or vice versa. Between using dots of black and white within the opposite color, you can help shape going from either black or white, or I should say black to white, or from gray to white or black, without a stark contrast of colors. The best example I have right now at the moment would be my Mount Fuji. I can't remember how far down it is. Let me go down to it real quick. Here we go. Obviously there's no gray in the palette, just black and white, but with trickery you can get it to look like gray. What you're doing is mixing the colors well enough to get them to just blend. Now, this isn't the smoothest that I could have done it, mainly for the fact of time for this particular piece. Keep in mind that doing this is going to take a lot of time, especially if you're trying to get a really smooth transition and a really nice one. It'll take a long time, depending, I guess, maybe on the methods that you're using. But if you get the right combination of black and white together, then you'll just have this beautiful transition going on, very smooth. The amount of dithering that you ought to do really depends on how smooth or rough you would like your image, the transition to be in the image. So keep that in mind. The smoother you'd like it, the more time that you're probably going to spend on it, especially if you're coming out of something like the checkerboard gray, which takes a long time for me. This part wasn't so bad. It took a little bit of time, but it's all about planning it and trying to get to look nice. And you might ask, well, why would I ever want to use dithering to kind of make the transition like that? I mean, if you want to add a nice twist to it, maybe make it feel complete, or you could just include it because you think it looks cool. It just really also depends on what your image is about. Like for this particular piece, I did it to make it more interesting. The mountain and the clouds didn't take so long, but this allowed me to spend more time on this, and I mean it gave it something extra that were maybe just, if I had left the background white, may have been ignored. So, it's all about what your particular image is about. So let's get a little bit into how to dither. Alright, so I'm going to cover a few different ways that you can potentially dither. They're not the only ways. Again, like a lot of things on here, I suggest that you be creative. If you need a different way or something that works in a different way to try different things, be creative about it. But these are a few things to kind of help you get started thinking about that. Here I've got one of the ways, but actually let me zoom out to 100% for a moment. As you can see, it is checkerboarding done. It's kind of similar to what I've got on my Mount Fuji right now. It's the checkerboarding shading. And so we're kind of working out to, getting to something to work for the smoothing transition. Let's see here. I've already drawn this stuff to make it a little bit easier. I've put it in layers to kind of be able to throw it in after the fact. So let's turn that on, and as you'll see, it's similar to my Mount Fuji one. It's even down to the amount of, I believe, line spaces that I had. Pretty easy, checkerboarding, then diagonal lines across. Basically, what I did on my Mount Fuji one was skipped a couple line, skipped a couple line, skipped a couple line, and skipped a couple plus an additional one line. And it's kind of my own pattern that I did. It was in threes, but it gives you an idea of what's going on here. It's not the smoothest transition, obviously. It's not from black to a gray to white, where it's like Photoshop. If you did a gradient, it would be a smooth transition. It's just not quite like that, and we don't have tools for that. So this is where dithering comes into play. This is just one method. Let's see. Let me zoom out for a second and give you a better idea of what it looks like at 100% again. And it actually gives a nice transition. Maybe it works for a particular piece you're working on. It worked for my Mount Fuji, especially considering the time that I had invested in it and didn't have any more time to put in it. Let's take a look at a second one here. This one, okay, so the example here is at the bottom there is the black and then the white. So how would you transition between these two to make it look smoother than it does now? Well, you could do dithering, that I believe is more prevalent in sprite art. So let's take a look, turn that on. So let's take a zoom in. Basically what it's doing is you're taking some black, putting it on the white side, taking some white, putting it on the black side, and getting a smoother transition between them to kind of help you out. You could maybe even go out a little further on each side, depending on how large of a transition you want. Let's take a look at this back at 100%. And the third one here, let's take a look at it. Also have checkerboarding again. As you can see, much larger area. But maybe you don't want it necessarily as in your face or something. So let's turn on the dithering here. And it's more of a middle transition. As you can see, the checkerboarding's a darker gray, and doing it this way appears to be a lighter gray, and then you can maybe even do a different dithering technique here to make it slightly lighter and then blend it into the white better. All depends on what you're going for, but let's take a look here. This particular piece here is pretty easy. It was just checkerboarding. Then the last column, I just took a space and then put them on the same line, and then just kind of did that. So it's something that you can work with. Again, these aren't the only three. It's just some things that you can do. Think about it. I mean, you can even Google some of this and you'll probably get some tips on how to do it. I haven't done it myself, so I'm not sure how easily you'd be able to find it. I know there's a lot of garbage on the internet, but it's worth taking a look if you want to look further into it, or maybe different techniques. My idea is to get people to think about it and to get the basic concepts, and to be creative, to think creatively. I mean, as an artist, that's the whole point, is to think creatively. These are some basic ones to get you started, and just do what you can to make the dithering in your particular piece work for what you've got going on. That's dithering in a nutshell for the most part. I mean, it can get more complicated. Like I said, if you're interested in more detailed information, I would recommend Google, Miiverse, even at this point. Do some browsing. There are a lot of people out there that are good at it, and good at a lot of things on there, different styles, different methods. Take a look on Miiverse. There are people that could surprise you. Also, quick plug here. I think a good way to get introduced to new artists is through another Miiverse user right now that has, for the past month and some change, done a YouTube video once a week highlighting 5 of her favorite artists a week, and more recently an additional artist that she finds comical. It's a great way to find new artists if you're not familiar, or if it seems like a daunting task. On YouTube here you can look up Wii Art Shay. In fact, I will actually bring that up. Okay, so Wii U Art Shay, look up, and then you'll find, apparently she shares me with her husband, which is why the me itself looks like a guy. But you'll see that she's got, let's see, 4, 5, 6, 7 videos up right now. Puts up one a week, around on Friday, Saturday, depending. And it's a great way to get introduced to new artists. I believe there are also several other Miiverse guys doing videos as well right now, but I'm not entirely sure, and I don't know their usernames at the moment because I only found them yesterday, I believe. So, just as a quick plug and a great way to kind of browse Miiverse without doing it yourself if it's a daunting task, is to come here and watch once a week. Basically, just use your creativity. Art is all about creativity, creating new things. I do like to kind of help start folks in the right direction. I'd like to thank you for watching, and if there are any techniques or anything that you're curious about, again, I've got a list I'm working on, but I figured this might be the next best thing to get into over everything else I have on there. But if you have anything that you'd like to see or hear about or anything, let me know, and I'll see if I can get into it. And in the meantime, I hope you guys have a great week, and thank you for watching.